Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to A Course in Miracles 365, Awakening to Love. I'm Reverend Tomas Garza, and I want to thank all of you for tuning in today, and to all of the recent subscribers, a quick shout out. Thank you all for your interest. And what's more important than subscribing to a YouTube channel and leaving comments, viewing videos, what's more important than that is your commitment to your spiritual practice, whatever that looks like. And that is what I really deep down thank you for. My aim here on this channel is to share with you A Course in Miracles. And, well, let's get right to it, shall we? Where we are in this process is I want to talk about forgiveness today, specifically true forgiveness. There are many, many components. There are 6 components, actually, to this course. And before we start in on the text of A Course in Miracles, what I want to do is just check in and leave some fundamental videos here on the channel, some basics, because even if you're an experienced student, it helps to revisit the basics every now and then, doesn't it? It does on the path. And there are well over 600 videos here dedicated to this course. And well, there are soon to be more than 1,000. You can scroll all the way back and find plenty of introductory videos, but that's a lot of scrolling. And here we are. And well, we have different understandings at different points on the path, don't we? We understand something like forgiveness very differently when we start out on the path, especially if you've been on it for years. So let's revisit this central idea of A Course in Miracles. Now, quick reminder that the very most recent video is called What's a Miracle? And that is about what a miracle is. Now, it is a shift, any shift from fear to love, from dark to light, from the ego to God. Call it whatever you want. It's any shift, no matter how insignificant it may seem at the time. So you are, by the way, a miracle worker without having to levitate, without having to look at objects and make them disappear physically, performing what looks like a magic trick or a Jedi mind trick or anything like that. So miracles are accessible to all. And by the way, if you're just tuning in, there's nothing special about me either. I'm a student of this course right along with you. My particular calling is to turn on the camera and microphone and share this course with you, and along the way, share some of my experiences with this material, which is the foundational centerpiece of my spiritual practice. So whatever yours looks like, there's something to be gained from listening to this message. So what is forgiveness in A Course in Miracles? Well, as you might imagine, it's 180 degrees different, the polar opposite, actually, to the way forgiveness is seen in the world. And why wouldn't it be? This course turns what we consider to be reality on its head. We're invited to adopt a completely different thought system, and that is comprehensive. This course presents a different thought system, a different way of looking at ourselves, a different way of looking at other people, and a different way of looking at the world and space and time and all phenomena, all. Complete reversal, a complete shift, a complete change. in our perception. Nothing more than that, but certainly nothing less. How we accomplish this great shift, which only appears great and inaccessible. In fact, it's totally accessible. How we accomplish it is the practice of forgiveness. So, what does that mean? What I want to do today is share a little bit about what forgiveness is in the world and how we see it, and how forgiveness, according to this course, contrasts with that. So, here in the world, we have a very warped notion of what forgiveness is, don't we? I mean, really, there's all kinds of forgiveness out there. And incidentally, Jesus, in the supplement called A Song of Prayer, the Song of Prayer, Jesus calls this kind of forgiveness forgiveness to destroy. It maintains a sense of separation. What we have here are types of forgiveness where someone positions themselves as high and mighty, and the person they're forgiving is very low, barely above camera line, right? Barely human, scum, a drag, unworthy, sinner. Ooh, there is no sin. So we have this apparent dichotomy, a separation. Forgiver, person being forgiven, where one holds their forgiveness over somebody. Anybody's mother ever do this to them? Mine did. So, what we have here is someone stooping, deigning in their lordliness, in their high and mighty snobbery, in their utter smugness and beneficence, to forgive somebody for a transgression, a sin, for having wronged them deeply. What's the matter with this type of forgiveness? Everything. It maintains a separation. Resentment can grow. The person that is supposedly forgiven in this context often feels horrible for long periods of time, decades possibly. It maintains a sense of separation. So too are forms of forgiveness in which it looks like a negotiation. I'll forgive you if you do X for me. And if you don't, then I will cancel your birthday. I'll take you to court. There's a consequence attached, and it maintains an inherent sense of separation between forgiver and the supposedly forgiven. Now, if you're just new and joining us here in the study of A Course in Miracles, you may or may not have been exposed to the idea that I just referenced, that there is no sin. You're not a sinner. God has no ego to be offended. There is no separation of any kind. Ideas leave not their source. These are central ideas to the thought system of A Course in Miracles that I repeat often. Well, we need repetition, don't we? So, no surprise then that forgiveness, as it's presented in this course, is markedly different than forgiveness in the world that maintains a sense of separation. Now, one of the things that you'll find here in forgiveness, according to this course, which I'm going to just refer to as true forgiveness here for the purposes of this video, one thing you'll find in true forgiveness is that there's no set formula for it. There's no prescription, so to speak, in the guise or in the presence of a chart or a formula to be applied in every situation. The reason for that is true forgiveness is done under the direction of our inner teacher, the Holy Spirit or Jesus, your guide or guides. Yeah. That's the idea here. It's done under the direction of your higher self, not your lowercase s self that appears in the world as what we call a human being, as what we refer to as a man, woman, as what we refer to as a minister or an accountant, a citizen of a certain country, middle aged, young, elderly, whatever. There is no separation of any kind. Deep down, we all know this. That's why we are drawn to spirituality in the first place. I mean, maybe this resonates with you that there's just something that's calling you to this. There's something that draws us into this material. And you could be watching anything else on YouTube. I mean, right? There's a lot of very, very visually intriguing content out there. There's a lot of content out there. And here you are, dedicated to your spirituality. It's rare in this world, and it's beautiful. Forgiveness, according to this course, is done with our inner teacher. We trust the strength of our inner teacher and allow our inner teacher to direct our forgiveness. Therefore, the thought process, the words that we use will differ every time. Here's something about forgiveness, according to A Course in Miracles, that's very, very important. When we forgive, let's say our mother, it could be anybody, but let's just use her as an example. When we forgive her, we don't have to call her up. We don't have to have her over for tea or coffee and a nice sit down. We don't have to email. We don't have to text. She doesn't need to know we're doing it at all because it's done in our mind. The other person does not have to even know. Now, what are we forgiving her for? Well, here in the world, we view forgiveness as forgiving somebody for what they did, for what we deem to be a concrete act, like telling us off. We'll forgive them, supposedly, for that. Or something that they did to us. Here's the issue. There's no separation of any kind. This is pure non-duality here in A Course in Miracles. There is no separate other who can harm us. Therefore, our brother, that's a word that we use here in this course, which refers to all people, and it is deliberately singular, the Son of God. Our brother has done nothing to us because there is no separation of any kind, and we've never been separate. That is part of the attitude of forgiveness. It's a recognition that he, or, if you're working with mom, she has done nothing to us. We've never been separate, so we forgive what appears to be something external and forgive ourselves for dreaming it, because there's nobody out there. This is all going on in our own mind, an important part of this thought system, and it's not unique to A Course in Miracles. There are many thought systems, many different spiritual traditions in the world that talk about the same thing. They talk about all of this being a dream. Like watching a movie, and everything that we see that appears to be outside of us is an image on the screen. The physical body, which is not who we are, is also an image on the screen. And an idea that I invite you to sit with is that we don't see with the body's eyes. We see with the mind that has projected all of this. So if you're wondering, the answer is yes, we literally can and ultimately will forgive all of it. Everything that we see and appear to experience through what we deem to be the physical, the so-called physical senses. It's a dream. We're dreaming it. We forgive ourselves for dreaming it because we're dreaming it. When we forgive an outer appearance, someone else, who are we forgiving? Ourselves. There is no separation of any kind. And we release the situation, the person, whatever we've just forgiven in our own mind, we've released this to our inner teacher. We join with our inner teacher in peace. We join with our teacher's strength, the strength of our higher self, the Holy Spirit's strength. So each act of forgiveness can take just a couple of seconds, a split second. Again, the words that you use, the verbiage, doesn't really matter as long as the attitude is there, as long as there's some recognition that other people haven't done anything to us despite what may have happened in the world. A brother has done nothing to us. It's our dream, and we forgive them. We forgive ourselves for dreaming it. We release this to our inner teacher. We trust the strength of our inner teacher. We recognize our essential oneness. This turns the thought system of the world completely on its head, doesn't it? It's exactly the opposite. And why would you want to adopt this? Well, isn't that a good question? I hope you ask that question. I really do. I hope that you're asking, if you're new to this path, and even if you've been practicing this course for decades, which some of you have, longer than I have, I hope you're asking yourself, why would I ever want to adopt this? Well, how has the identification with the ego worked out for you? Does it bring you peace at all? I don't mean moments of peace, like a hot date on a Friday night where you end up flirting with your hot, sexy lover for hours and hours, building the anticipation, and then y'all go ravage one another. And you have a great meal in the process and some really, really beautiful kick-ass wine. Right? I don't mean moments like that. Those end. The peace of God doesn't end. When we say in A Course in Miracles, God is, that's what is meant. Only God is, and God is permanent, constant. Here in the world, we don't experience anything as permanent and constant, do we? So the hot, sexy date that we have on a Friday night ends. The beautiful dinner that we have as part of that evening ends. The bottle of wine runs out when we drink the whole thing. And eventually, the relationship ends. Even if you end up marrying this person and living happily ever after, guess what else ends? Let's not deny that, shall we? Who we really are is constant. And it's beyond all of our terms and terminology here in the world. It's beyond words, so it really cannot be described. It can, however, be experienced. And that is what we're hoping for, isn't it? And it's more than just hope, it's a certainty. That's what we're doing here on the path, is we have never left our source. Ideas leave not their source. You're an idea. You're a thought of God, just as I am the thought of God, which has not left its source. Capitalize the S, yeah? You know what that means. What we're doing in spiritual practice is removing the barriers to our awareness. Heaven is an awareness of perfect oneness. It's not a place. It's not a tropical beach. It's not a garden under which rivers flow. It's an awareness of perfect oneness, which can only be experienced. And we can experience it even when we appear to be here in this 80% water thing that we refer to as the physical body. Well, guess what? We're not in it. Who we really are is far beyond this. This is a dream, remember. So that's a lot of metaphysics, isn't it? If you're viewing this and you're really new to this material, this can seem like a lot, can't it? It can really seem like a lot. And I will tell you, I started practicing this material in 2013. It now forms the basis of my spiritual practice. And it's very common to not understand this fully. I didn't understand this fully the first time I was exposed to it. There were elements of this attitude of forgiveness that I've been talking about that made sense to me, and others that I needed to have a second go at, and a third, and a fourth, and a 57th go at over the years. As we continue to show up and practice this, our understanding evolves. And it's important to understand how it works, but what's far more important is to practice it. That's how we learn that these ideas are true, is by putting them into practice. So you must do the course. There's no osmosis by which someone snaps their finger and we're automatically enlightened. No, we have to do the deep inner work. Remember, because it's our dream. Someone else can't wipe the slate clean for us. That's not the way it works. Which means pure non duality is the shortest line in spirituality. But welcome. Welcome. It's great to have you. Understand also that as you forgive, let's reiterate, the other person doesn't have to know you're doing it. And a very important point, especially if you're just starting out, you might be thinking, as I was, oh my God, I've got to forgive my mother for the years of really, really brutal emotional and verbal abuse. She was a raging alcoholic. So as I began to practice this material, she was still alive. She passed in 2016. And well, I experienced some initial reaction, as in, oh my God, do I really have to do that? What are the benefits of doing that? Well, when I didn't let her know that. I did it repeatedly, and every time felt lighter. It enabled me to put the boundaries in place that I needed to put in place. Forgiveness does not mean you continue to condone abusive behavior. So let's not get each other wrong at all in any way. It does not mean stand still and take it. Not at all. Also, if you don't feel ready, even in your mind, to entertain the thought of forgiving an abusive ex or someone that has harmed you in this lifetime, if you're not ready to do that, then so be it. You don't have to do that right away. What I recommend is that you start with what occurs to you. That's why we're experiencing everything we're experiencing in this movie. Let's just call it that. It's a film. Everything that shows up is an opportunity for us to practice. Beautiful things are symbolic, and painful things are also symbolic. The beauty, a cute puppy dog, right? A hug from your son or daughter, a beautiful sunset, a tropical beach. These are all symbolic of our love. They're symbolic of our own limitlessness, of joy, of who we are as the Son of God. And the painful stuff is an opportunity to forgive. It's symbolic of what's going on in our own mind. Everything. If you're not ready to forgive an abusive ex, you don't have to. So be it. Start with what you can. Right? Forgive the cat for throwing up a hairball on the carpet. Forgive yourself for spilling coffee on your white pants this morning, which is always a bummer. Yeah? Start with what you can and watch the most recent video. We're about to spend a lot of time on the truth that there is no order of difficulty in miracles. In other words, a miracle, any shift from fear to love is just as powerful as another. You could literally move mountains, or you could forgive. You could do both, but if you can't move mountains, you don't have to. You can still show up and be a miracle worker. This is accessible to all of us. Forgiveness, according to this course, is a miracle, and it undoes the ego. It undoes it because we're trusting the guidance and the strength of our inner teacher. And by the way, it's the Holy Spirit that does the bulk of the healing here, almost all of it, in this type of forgiveness. What we're responsible for is forgiving what appears in our experience. It appears to be outside us. We forgive it, acknowledging that it's not outside us. The Holy Spirit does the rest. So if you're not ready, start with what you can start with. And if you're not ready to accept or entertain this idea, that makes total sense. It's new to almost everyone. The first time we hear about this, there's bound to be some shock. There's bound to be some reaction from the ego that wants us to stay the same and miserable. But again, as we talked about a few minutes ago, how has the ego's thought system really helped you? Has it led you to the peace of God? And when you answer no to that, it's an invitation to go deep with yourself. So, as always, that's what I thank you for the most. I welcome comments, I welcome questions here on YouTube. This button, this red arrow, is a subscription button. What you can do is just hover your cursor over that, brings it up, click. All right. So, thank you all for tuning in. We're going to begin next here with the text of A Course in Miracles. We'll spend a few days on the preface with some very, very, very important background about the Course, what it is and what it's not. All right. Thank you all for joining me and for your practice. We'll see you again soon.